This is the trade banger of the week. The one deal that's too good, too bad, or just too wild not to talk about. If you've got a trade that shook up your league, send it our way. It just might be next week's banger. All right, guys. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Better than when Jesse asked.
I'm the main man this week, so I'm gonna praise Jesse.
Yeah, what's up with that? Anyways, never mind. I'll probably mess up too. For this week's trade banger, we don't actually have a listener email because the trade is mine. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, it's one of those. I didn't get anything good, and I decided, hey, I like myself. I like my trades. I'm gonna do one of mine. And in this team, or with this team, I'm like dead last. I'm in last place. Austin, I believe, is in this league with me. And it's not like one of those teams where it's not dramatically in last place. Like I had a bunch of injuries and circumstance put me in last place. It's like very comfortably, naturally where I belong, last place. My quarterback room's like JJ McCarthy and Cam Ward. So that pretty much explains my roster. Anyways, the trade was I traded away said JJ McCarthy, George Pickens, and broke my heart, but I traded away Quinshon Judkins. And I received Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas Jr., and a late 27 second. So just to tell you a little bit about my roster here, I already told you some of the things that are kind of killing it here in my quarterback room. Wide receiver room's pretty strong. Running back room, now that I gave away Quinshon Judkins, non-existent. And the guy that I'm trading with, he is a pretty healthy contender. He's trying to make a stronger push, trying to add some points. Right before we made this trade, Jaden Daniels went down. I think we've gotten a little bit of good news as far as the timeline with him coming back, but this is even before that happened. So, just for a little bit of context there. Yeah, so just some questions here because for me, this was a really interesting, really close trade. It was a really hard one to make. But it just kind of fell into place. Austin, I've got an interesting one for you here. The two ends of the trade that gave me pause with this one are the two big risk points on, I guess, from my perspective. One being Brian Thomas Jr. is less of the, I'm going to take this to the house 2024 model and more of like the 2025 brick for hands, mystical injury. Sucks for some reason, Brian Thomas. The other one is that, Stefanski kind of stays in Cleveland. Or they find another head coach that's, also a kind of run first kind of guy. And we see Judkins turn into the 18 to 27 touch per game player that we think he could be. Which one is I guess, scarier for you? Which one do you think is the biggest risk on mine?
I mean, the bigger risk is moving Judkins before what I believe you're getting close to his ceiling. I saw the stat this week, actually. He's like second or third in the league in seeing stacked boxes. And it's not on a per rate thing, it's overall. So, I mean, he's getting touches, but he's seeing 8 or 9 defenders consistently and still putting up usable fantasy production. So if we can see that offense become decent in the passing game, not even good, just decent in the passing game, which we've seen with Stefanski multiple times. And like you said, even if they bring in another coach, there's no reason to think the passing game couldn't be again. But we just need a decent passing game, and Judkins' ceiling can become top 3 dynasty guy even by the end of this year, which the passing game likely doesn't get there. But being he is just turned 21, I mean, we have a long way to go while his dynasty window is still in that, range to where it's a top 3 running back. So that's the scarier piece. Brian Thomas, likely we don't see that kind of fall much further than he is. I mean, I think we're likely at the floor because even in his bad games, he's still putting up decent production. So I think the scarier piece is getting off of Judkins before the ceilings is achieved.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I think about it too. I think it's tough letting him go now, and that's why I'm so broken up about it. But yeah, Jesse, I've got another question for you. It's kind of another strategic question here, but when really digging into like the meat of a rebuild, to me, it's always like a tightrope balancing act, right? You're trying to figure out if a player is one that you should hold through sell opportunities, like we talked with Judkins. Maybe that's a good candidate for that. or you part with to maybe make more moves. You carry a little bit more risk, but it also can expedite the rebuilding process. What's the kind of main key points that you're considering when you're trying to decide which category a player falls in?
So you're asking me who won the trade? No, I'm kidding. No, seriously though, can you paraphrase that question?
Yeah, so basically when you're in a rebuild, right, and you have a high quality prospect, how do you distinguish if this is a guy that you need to sell or that you should sell it high and, take a little bit more risk onto yourself to be able to make more moves, or ones that you could want a guy you should carry through the rebuild as a cornerstone piece?
That's a really good question. So I don't really view any player as a player that I have to keep. So if a player gets to what I see as his peak value and I get an offer for that peak value and I don't think it'll ever get more than that, then yeah, I'll probably trade him. And that could be the same with Jaden Daniels or Brian Thomas or Josh Allen. So I really there's no player that I'm saying, okay, I have to keep this guy no matter what. But in this trade, if you want me to apply that to this trade, there's a running back involved. So yeah, I do kind of think to myself, with young prospects in a rebuild, I should probably trade the running back, and flip that for more assets and kind of spread that around a little bit.
Well, yeah,
Is that what you're asking me?
Well, that actually leads right into the next question I had for you, which was, if there is a position where you say, okay, this is one that I probably need to get rid of, or if they're all the same to you, if you're just looking at it from a value perspective and saying, it doesn't matter. I'm positionless. I'm just trading away players, trying to make moves to gain value.
It's mostly that, it's mostly pure arbitrage, to be honest, where I'm just trying to put the most value on a roster and then sort it out later. But yeah, I do lean towards trading away the running back.
Yeah. Mike, this one is a question that I struggled with in this trade. Asking myself this question. I have a lot of first round picks in this trade. I mean, in this league, right? I'm rebuilding. I've accumulated a number. I think I'm up to like 5 now, I think. And the guy that I'm trading with, I already have his first round pick. So that's one thing I'm looking at where I'm saying, okay, this is part of the trade for me. I know I'm making his trade. I'm devaluing the first that I already have, but with this trade, I've essentially locked myself into the 101. For you, how are you weighting your picks being very high end at the expense of making, one of your contending picks a bit weaker?
I'm always fine doing that because I'd rather have one early pick and one late pick than two mid to late mid picks. You know what I mean? So when I'm in a full on rebuild, I focus more on taking the points off of my roster than the who I'm helping and what picks I have, right? Because at the end of the day, sometimes you're not that lucky. Whereas, maybe there's, the 3 guys that trade the most and you so happen to have all 3 of their picks, but they're willing to trade you their guys that are hurt or whatever they can so they can continue to compete, right? Because we're not in a perfect world where, not all league is like our listener league, right? Where everyone is willing to trade pretty much 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I always focus on my pick, right, which is what I can afford, and doing what you're doing here. I mean, is how you turn rebuilds around. Is you get pretty elite guys that are hurt, so they're devalued, and you're trading for those guys at possibly their lowest point, besides when they were maybe initially drafted. So
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
That's how I roll it.
Just to I guess elaborate on that a little bit more. Is there a specific any scenario, right, where I know this trade is being done kind of in the middle of the season, right? So we have a little bit less, I guess, data on how the draft is really going to look, the upcoming draft, right? But as we're getting to the end of the season and we're making those like last second playoff trades, and you're a rebuilding roster. In that specific scenario, are you looking at the draft class and you're saying, okay, do I need to strategize where these picks are based on how I think my tiers are going to work out? Or are you just saying, hey, we don't really know enough yet. I'm just gonna, stick to my guns here, try to make my first as early as possible, as you were saying.
I mean, like you guys know, I'm not the all-in college expert of who's going to be what in the upcoming rookie draft, but I do. Towards mid-season is when I try to put my kind of ear to the floor. Right, I feel like everyone's been knowing to hunt 2027 picks. I feel like since week 1, right, where it's not been the same for 2026. So, I it does take a little bit part, right? And I think we know, right, from the 2026 draft that 101 is going to be really important. So if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't want to do anything to risk it maybe being the 102, 103 with some of the players are there outside of Love, right? So that's my thought. And what came to mind when you said, well, it all but secures me the 101. And I'm like, oh yeah, well then that's easy. Based off of what little I know out of some of the guys that could be coming out of the coming class, because it's not a great QB class. I mean, I think pretty much everybody knows that. So you're not going to have what we did, 2 years ago. And
well, and speaking of locking myself into the 101, the guy I'm kind of boxing out here now that I'm looking at the standings is Austin Bell,
Yes,
who
sir.
is in
Yeah,
second to
solid
last
moves.
place in that
Yeah.
league. Yeah, so that makes it even more intriguing. It's something I'm enjoying a lot more now than I'm looking at it. So, but yeah, I'd like to actually get Austin your opinion, and then Jesse, I'll come to you afterwards on it. But how do you play that kind of game? Is that something that I know you care more about the college scene at this point, but is that a game you're really playing, or are you just kind of sticking with the game plan as far as how you see the picks, early, mid, or late?
I mean, overall, give me any pick. I don't really care, but because we don't know what we're doing when it comes to the picks, you can spend hundreds of hours and you draft this guy at 103 and you feel great and you realize you should have taken the guy that went 110. But that being said, in terms of value, which is in my opinion, the best way to play Dynasty, of course you want your pick earlier. Even if that does mean another pick you have becomes, instead of the 109, the 112, that you're not going to be able to pay that difference from the 9 to the 12 to go from 102 to 101. So I would much rather go ahead and secure my 101 than worry about if my pick, the other first I have, is 9 or 12. Because let's be honest, nobody knows what's going to happen in the playoffs. I've watched teams that I was 28-0 going into the playoffs and lose the first matchup. And I've watched teams where I've been the 6th seed and won the championship. So we don't know when that comes. Yep. So at the end of the day, control what you control. Like Mike said, get that 101, figure the rest out when the time comes.
That's a great way to look at it. Jesse, anything to add on that front?
No, it's well said.
Sweet. All right. Well, now it's, I guess, talking about the specific trade. Let's go through who won. So again, we've got me trading away JJ McCarthy, George Pickens, and Quinshon Judkins. I received Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas Jr., and a 27 second. Jesse, who won the trade? Just say it.
I like team 2. Sorry, I just think there's a lot of depressed value there that's gonna bounce back, and it's not even gonna take a year for you to look at this and be like, And also, I think it's well known that you're a JJ McCarthy lover. I think you overvalue him a little.
Well, he traded him away. He got Jaden Daniels.
Your team 2?
Yeah, I'm team 2.
All right, you won.
Never mind, Jesse's team 1 now.
No. I think team 2 got a lot of depressed value, and it's going to look a lot better in time, and not a lot of time actually. Once those players get healthy, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, Austin, how you feel about it?
JJ McCarthy is the piece here. We didn't really discuss that aspect of the trade, but if he becomes close to a top 12 dynasty quarterback, team 1 runs away with this trade. But if he doesn't, which is, we've seen about a mixed bag at this point, then receiving Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas for what you gave up feels phenomenal. So on the safety side, I'll take team 2, but team 1 getting that return is very interesting and will absolutely help him try to bring home a ship this year.
Yeah, Yeah. There's so many variables in it. Of course, we've talked about these these players specifically at nauseum. Maybe sans JJ McCarthy, is the one. So I'm glad you brought him up. Mike, how do you feel? And go into as much detail as you want here.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. Kind of going back to the question that you asked Jesse, right? I do feel like the running backs are the ones that I trade away in a rebuild at as close to their peak as possible, almost every time. And if I can, I like to build my rebuilds quarterbacks first, and then wide receivers second, and then by that time you can fill in with the running backs there to make yourself competitive again. So I still believe in Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas, and it's been a down late year, and I honestly think this could be the lowest you could possibly get them. So,
Yeah, the fact that it was like the non-throwing arm, that got hyperextended for
Jaden
Jaden Daniels.
season,
Yeah, I mean that was the
Yeah, he will.
perfect like buy opportunity in my mind, and that's why as soon as it happened, because I was watching it live and it happened, and I was like, every league, I'm gonna try to go get this guy because it is a non-throwing hand, and some people are going to ignore that. Some people are just going to say, his arm is hyperextended.
Yeah.
He's gone. Yeah, it looks bad. Let me go ahead and try to move him for a piece that can provide me with some points now. So, yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from there. All right.
I will say though, with the running back thing, I've made 2 exceptions in my life, and those were both Gibbs and Bijan. So anywhere that I got those, and I happened to be rebuilding in quite a few teams when those guys were coming out, and I got quite a bit of those. I have Bijan and Einstein, that kind of thing. I held them. I didn't trade any of those guys in any of those leagues because I really did view those 2 specific running backs as cornerstone pieces.
Well, and Quinshon Judkins could be that guy, which is the reason why it was so tough to trade him away. I do think that he has the opportunity to be that kind of rare back that sees those 25 to 27 touches a game, talking about rushes and targets. But it's still tough with a running back, especially with Stefanski being in flux here. If they bring in a guy that has a different view of offensive function, then we could really see that role dwindle and more of the passing role take dominance to it. So I think there is some risk there, but I do think Quinshon Judkins could be that kind of player.
Yeah, I mean, maybe more of a Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah,
that kind of production without a whole lot of passing.
Yeah, those guys are getting incredibly rare to find now. And it's tough letting them go. Yeah, I appreciate the insight. I'm glad we got to talk a little bit more strategy and less about the trade, because I feel like we've talked about these guys, specifically quite a bit. But yeah, it was fun digging into it with you guys. I'm just gonna say here, if we do like to, we much rather take on trades from our listeners. We didn't get any that I thought would be interesting enough, but if you do have a trade, please do send it to us in the Discord or the or through our email at dynfo.official@gmail.com. Again, that's dynfo.official@gmail.com. Or again, join the Discord, hit us up in the Discord, talk to us, send it over, or we're happy to chat about it then too.